Hello and welcome to Addicted to Lacrosse. This is Season 5, Episode number 23. Today is Sunday, May the 27th, 2018. My name is Graham Parrow. With me, as always, are Tyler Fitch and Melissa Daphne. And we, of course, only have one game to talk about this week, but it's one of the big ones, I guess. Before we get to that, we have a little bit of news. I don't have much to say on this, but I wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts. It was announced this week that Tracy Kelusky will not be returning as an assistant coach of the Black Wolves next year. It was originally, the original announcement I thought just said he will not be returning. And then I saw a quote from Rich Lusk saying that this was a very difficult decision. The implication that I read into that was that it was a difficult decision for him, not a difficult decision for Tracy. So it sounds like he was fired as opposed to deciding to leave. I guess they decided that the Black Wolves offense didn't get the job done as well as they were hoping that it would. So I don't have any particular comments other than the fact that it was probably a difficult year for Glenn Clark and Tracy Kelusky in that they kept changing stuff. They brought in Steph LeBlanc early in the season. They brought in Johnny Paulus later in the season. They, of course, lost Sean Evans, and brought in Callum Crawford. So there's a bunch of changes happened in the offense. So I imagine that's hard to keep things consistent when you're consistently inconsistent. So maybe they decided that it still wasn't getting done, so let's make an offensive coaching change. Any thoughts on that matter, Tyler?
No, I can't say I have any thoughts on this matter. My only thought about this subject is, how is this the only news out of the NLL the week before the finals? Where's our award finalists? Where's some sort of NLL news? But we've had a game for 2 weeks. This is the only news. That's not great. Melissa, any thoughts on TK moving on or otherwise?
It's a little surprising, but at the same time, it's not. As we've discussed, the New England team definitely struggled. It had its ups and its downs, and some really great moments, some really bad moments. So whenever that happens, you expect some kind of a coaching change. It'll be interesting, especially with 2 new teams coming into the league. He might just get snapped up very quickly. So we'll have to see. But I think it's odder that it came out now. You know, as you said, this is the only news that we have right now. I think that's the stranger part of it versus him being let go, is when it was released. So,
I could see. I was gonna say I could see him ending up in Philadelphia with Paul Day, as they're both Peterborough boys, and so maybe there's a connection there in his future.
Very possible. All right, let's get on to the only game of the week. And of course, we had Saskatchewan hosting Rochester in Game 1 of the NLL Finals. And Saskatchewan came out on top of that 16-9 in a game that looked like it was going to be fairly close for a little while, and then wasn't, and then looked like it might be again, but it didn't end up that way. I was going to look over the scoring. Let me find it here. Yeah, so it went back and forth. So Saskatchewan took a lead, and then Rochester scored 2, and then Saskatchewan scored 2, and then Rochester scored 2. And so just the lead kept going back and forth. And then Saskatchewan went on a 7-goal run and kept Rochester off the board for almost 20 minutes. So that pretty much did it. Rochester tried to sort of mount a bit of a comeback in the late in the third and early in the fourth, but every time they scored 1 or 2 goals, Saskatchewan would get them right back. So they just couldn't get anything going. So we'll get into what we thought was awesome and not awesome about that game. And Tyler, I think you have more than I do, so I only have one of each. So Tyler, why don't you get started?
Sure. I will start off with the rush, defense, and transition. I thought their effort last night was awesome. They never really let the Nighthawks get settled. They were picking off passes, knocking down passes, just aggressive on the Rochester forwards, and it made a huge difference. They dictated pretty much all aspects of the game on their half of the floor, which is what you want your defense to do. But sometimes the offenses, you flip the board around and you see that the rush can move the ball around and do what they want on offense. Nighthawks couldn't do that. So my first awesome is the rush, defense, and transition, and the effort they put out and the impact they had on the game in a very positive aspect. Graham, do you have an awesome?
I do. It was actually the same one, pretty much. My first awesome was defense in the first quarter by both teams, pretty much. More so the rush, but I thought the Rochester defense was pretty solid as well. There was lots of shots from distance, just because it seemed that nobody could get inside. So that was less on the goaltender and more on the very solid defenders. There were block shots, as you said. There were lots of pass interceptions, and I'm not sure if that's a great defensive play or if that's just sloppy offense. Sometimes, a lot of times, it seems that they were just trying to. I guess the offensive players were just trying to pass the ball around to try and get things started, and not really paying attention to where the defenders are. And if you pass off to a teammate and there's a defender right in the middle, he's going to stick a stick out, and these rush guys seem to be really good at picking those off. So there was a lot of that, and as soon as you intercept it, there's a transition chance. And a lot of great goaltending from both Matt Vins and Evan Kirk, particularly in the first quarter. There were times later on when that kind of went away, particularly on Saskatchewan's 7-goal run. But particularly, like I said, in the first quarter, I thought the defense was really good on both sides. Melissa, what do you have?
So I'm going to be a little bit more generic. I know it was mentioned several times during the game that this is the Rush's 4th time being in the Cup in a row and things like that. And so that's my awesome, because it wasn't that long ago that the Rush were viewed as, oh, that's going to be an easy win. And they are so dominant right now. It's really easy to forget that struggle that they had those first few years. I remember there was one season where Calgary played them 4 times, and there was a huge outcry in the West because it's like, that's not fair, because that's 4 wins for them, because that's the way it was. The Rush were not a solid team. And so to really see how this team has turned around, I mean, as both of you touched on, their transition looks awesome. Their offense looks awesome. The defense is looking awesome. Goaltending, they looked so good. And Rochester just couldn't quite keep up. So that is my awesome, as generic it is. I can't believe this is the Rush team that used to be the easy win, and it's funny because I always liked him. I was always cheering for the underdog because I really wanted them to turn it around. And so to see that they really have, and they're not the underdog anymore, they are looking like the championship team. So it's going to be interesting what the next game holds, because we did see them go through this with Georgia last year. So, but that's my awesome. What about you, Tyler? What's your next one?
My next one is not from the game, but it is totally NLL related, and that is stealth defender Chris O'Doherty winning a Washington State High School lacrosse championship with as a coach of his team, the Eastlake Seawolves. So last year, his team eliminated the team I helped with in the semifinals at the state level, but then they lost in the finals. This year, they got over that hurdle, and I think they're super happy. A lot of hard work there. Just in general, Chris has been making the Washington State lacrosse community better for the last 8 years since the Stealth drafted him. He has stuck around. He didn't leave town like Rabel or Kyle Hartzell or Brett Manning did. Not that they were obligated to stay in the West for any reason at all. Like, they were flying in, but Chris really bought in. So, hey, this is cool. Like, I can make lacrosse better out here, and he has. And he got his first of what I suspect to be many state titles yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And good job, OD. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to see that. Graham, do you have any more awesomes?
I do not, actually. Melissa, if you have any more awesomes, you can do that now. Otherwise, we can move into the not awesome part.
I think the only awesome was just would say the first quarter was the most awesome because that back to back was a lot more exciting than what we were expecting. So I will cut my awesome short and just go with that first quarter because there were some amazing goals. Just it was a fun game. Did you have any more, Tyler?
No, just 2 awesomes this week.
All right, I guess I'll start with my not awesome, and I only have one. And there's only one game, so this is probably going to be a pretty short show. But not awesome, and I will start off with Billy D. Smith. The Nighthawks brought him in. It's not like they didn't know what they were getting with Billy D. Smith. I mean, everybody knows what you're getting. He's a solid defender. There are times when he's a smart defender, and there are other times when he's the old Billy D. Smith from the early Bandits days when he's not a smart defender and is really emotional and takes dumb penalties. And when you're in the championship final series, I was going to say game, and you're down by 6 with 6 minutes left, this is lacrosse. You're not completely out of it. It's unlikely that you're going to come back and win that game, but the possibility is still there. But then you take 3 minor penalties at the same time, something that's only been done a handful of times before. I looked it up. And so he took a roughing, a slashing, and a dead ball contact penalty all at the same time. So like I said, the comeback was unlikely, but possible. Now you're on the the penalty kill for pretty much the game. Now kudos to the Nighthawks defense. The Rush only scored on one of those. So that was about 1:30 into his second penalty. So they killed off the first one. 1:30 into the second one, they score a power play goal. So that negates the rest of that penalty, and he starts serving the 2 minutes for the third one. And then they managed to kill that one off too. So good job by Rochester there. So he only served 5.5 minutes. So we came out of the penalty box. There's less than a minute in the game, and he took another penalty. I mean, this one was 9 seconds left, and they were still down by 6. So the comeback is gone by that point. There's no chance of that. So it's not like that fourth penalty single-handedly killed their chances. But when you've already nuked your chances, wouldn't you kind of play it safe at the end there instead of losing your mind and going out there and taking another penalty? That just seems like a really dumb play to me. And I saw the first slew of penalties. I didn't see the last one, so I don't know what happened at the very end. But he's going to have a conversation with Mike Hayes, I'm pretty sure, on dumb things to do in championship series, and that's one of them right there. So not awesome at all. Tyler, do you have one?
Yeah, my first not awesome could be directly related to that. And because the Nighthawks ended up missing leadership on the floor when it was announced right when the game started that Sid Smith had been placed on the injured reserve. And he is their captain, has been their captain for years. I feel that the Nighthawks are completely screwed. In my experience with the Stealth, they've had times where Kyle Sorensen was their captain and he was injured and off the floor, and the team kind of looked like a rut of the ship. Haji was hurt for a couple games his last year as well. And again, like when there's no leadership on the floor, they sucked. And as soon as either one of them, Kyle Sorensen or Curtis Hodgson, came back, the team like won a game. Like there was a noticeable improvement. Having the captain on the floor and having that consistency and top-down leadership from the floor. And now Rochester doesn't have that. And if I had known that he was out of this series, I never would have even picked Rochester to win. I feel there's no chance, and it's a bummer. But having Sis Smith out there might keep Billy D. Smith under control. It's like, I can't piss off the captain. I got to follow his leadership. He's not taking crazy penalties. Maybe not. It could be no correlation. It could just be Billy D. being Billy D. But it sucks. It's not awesome that Sid Smith went on the injured reserve for the finals of the NLL season tournament or series. It's a bummer. Melissa,
do we know if he's out for game 2 or 3, or
he has to be? Like the IR is a minimum number of like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something. Like he's out. Like there's no way you can come back.
That's not good.
if the words that Brian Shanahan are correct, and it's actually the injured reserve, there's a minimum amount of time you have to spend on the injured reserve. And then they ended up putting in some defender who played like 3 games all year. Like, there's a difference between Sid Smith and a guy who played 3 games this year, and the Rush torn apart. So it's a bummer. Melissa, not awesomes for you.
I think you both hit on anything I could have mentioned, because Rochester just didn't look like a cohesive team. And then, of course, Billy D. Smith's meltdown towards the end, it just, you left your team high and dry, and then he could have easily been, had a 1-game suspension for next game. So then you really would have left your team high and dry. So there was just a lot of issues with the Nighthawks team in general. They just didn't look like a solid team playing against the Rush. And so they have a lot of changes to make before next weekend. So it'll be interesting. And as we've talked about, that leadership on a team can be huge. We've seen it numerous times with different teams that captain's gone and the team just falls apart. So it will be interesting if somebody can step up, or if the season's going to end next Saturday. Or it is Saturday, right?
Yep.
It's like, are we having another wonky Sunday or Thursday game? So, yeah, that's about all I have. It's pretty much echoing just what you said. Rochester just really didn't look good.
Graham, any more not awesomes for you?
I have nothing else. No.
All right, I'm going to keep it going. I'm in a bad mood, I guess. The next not awesome is the fact that we had a week off. And to top it off, the NLL TV feed went down. People said the Twitter feed was fine, but the NLL TV feed dropped out on me and a couple other people, or at least one other person who was texting me and was like, "Did the game go down?" It's like, yeah. And then once I tweeted about it, they fixed it. Like, did they not even know until I tweeted at them? It's unfortunate. But between the bye week, feed going down, like, I was more interested yesterday in the college finals for field lacrosse. I got my 2016 championship shirt on for when I went out to Philly and watched. Like, that was my realization. It's like, I want to watch those 2 games more than I want to watch this game that should have happened last week. And that's not usually me. Usually it's like, hey, NLL, like indoor lacrosse is vastly greater to field lacrosse. But I just didn't have any interest in the game. There was no hype. As much as the league may think they hyped it, I didn't see it, and I didn't buy into any of it. So poorly timed bye week, trouble with the feed once they finally got the game going. Like, I missed the Rush's first 2 goals. No. Rochester, and then the follow-up goals. Like, I missed those goals. I didn't even see them because like the feed went down. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So that's my next not awesome. Any feedback on that?
Follow up on that.
Yeah.
The game was not easily accessible on NLL TV after it wasn't live anymore. I actually had to click through 5 different spots before I happened across it, because it wasn't where it normally is under the games. It wasn't on the home page. I had to click through several times. And this is somebody who knows how to find things and is used to it. What does your new fan do? So there is totally a not awesome that I forgot about. Did you have any others, Tyler?
Yeah. Graham, any comments on the bye week or feed before I move on?
The feed was fine for me. I was on the Twitter feed. Somebody else mentioned that their friends are not on Twitter, so that's no good, but you don't have to be logged in. You don't have to have a Twitter account to watch the Twitter feed. Now, as you mentioned, Tyler, if you're watching on a Roku, that may not work very well. I don't know I haven't tried it through the Twitter feed on my Roku. But if the NLL feed isn't working, then and the Twitter feed doesn't work, then you're out of luck. You're back to your laptop or your iPad or something. The bye week, I agree, was poorly timed, as you said. We're kind of used to it being NLL fans because all the NLL teams are second or third tenants in their buildings. So if the Leafs are playing, the Rock are out of luck. If the Raptors are playing, the Rock are out of luck. Buffalo has the same problem in Calgary, and Saskatchewan didn't have any sporting issues this time, but it was concerts and a circus. But the arena's got to make money, and if somebody's going to call them 8 months in advance and say, we want a concert on this date, then they're not going to likely say, no, you can't have that date, because the Rush might be in the playoffs 8 months from now, and they might want to have that date. So you can hardly blame the arena for taking the booking that is actually going to pay them as opposed to the one that might. But it certainly sucks for the NLL fans, because, like you said, I'm sure a lot of people have lost interest. Obviously, the fans like us who are watch it anyway didn't lose interest, but at the same time, I kind of enjoyed last weekend not having any lacrosse games to watch. I mean, I love watching lacrosse, there's no question there, but just having the whole weekend available was kind of nice. And I thought, this is going to be good all summer. We'll have the summer, and then we'll get back into lacrosse sometime in the late fall when, training camps start and stuff. But having the season just continuing on with these minimal number of games is, if it's frustrating for us, like you said, Melissa, imagine what it's like for the non diehard fan like us, that they just want to say, hey, I think my team's in the finals, let's go check it out. Oh, it's next weekend. And then, maybe they'll forget. Maybe they'll not remember that they're in the finals in the first place, because I think the Rush had a bye at the end of the season, and then they played their last game, and then they had a bye again because of the first round of the playoffs. Then they played one game, then they had a weekend off. They've played like 3 games in the last month and a half. So not having having the playoffs condensed a little bit now that they've gone back to the single game elimination for the second round is probably helping. But if they keep stretching it out longer with the 3-game series over 3 separate weekends, and then adding in the extra week there, it's 3 games in a month, and it seems silly. Like you guys said, people are losing interest. People may have already lost interest, and when you go for the 2 weeks and you get no news in between, like you said, they could have been announcing finalists for awards and that kind of thing, but there was pretty much nothing. So that seemed like a real missed opportunity. Tyler, keep going.
Okay, last one. It's going to shift gears to the alternate pro lacrosse, the MLL. The league and commissioner, some new commissioner they have, Sandy something, fined one of their players, Ryan Flanagan, for tweeting that their team, the New York Lizards, went down to Florida and had no locker room, no shower, but they got the win, and they got to have pizza and beer afterwards. And they fined him his game paycheck for making that tweet. Apparently it was disparaging to the league. What I didn't realize is that when I got out of college and I was playing in the beer league up here, I'd go to the field. I'd drive 3 hours to Seattle, and there'd be no locker room, no showers. And when the game was over, we'd go to a bar and have pizza. I was a professional lacrosse player. I thought it was bigger. I thought it was different, but I was living the dream. And I was paying to play, but still. And
Flanagan got no money for his game, and you got no money for your game, so it's all the same.
There's a subtle difference, right? I paid for the season. I didn't pay for that one game, so it's identical. I was living the dream, and that's how little lacrosse has advanced itself in the 15 years since I was doing that. Boy, that talk about like an insecure leader, like petty. Like, you fine a guy for stating the truth, like, good luck with that. Like, can you see any pro league? Like, obviously, an NHL player or an NBA player is not going to go to a game and not have a locker room. But if they did say something about it, is the league going to fine them their entire game paycheck? You're going to take $300,000 away from LeBron or something crazy like that? No. Get over yourself, MLL. Like, you are not player friendly. You're eliminating them in new ways every month. Yeah, and it's just suck it up. It's the reality of the product and you're putting out and how you're treating your players, and you have to live with that. instead of making it worse. But they chose to make it worse. So, wow. Melissa, yeah, go ahead. Any more thoughts to add?
I'm kind of speechless on that. I mean, like you said, he's speaking the truth. It's not like he was going, oh, the MLL sucks to play for. We didn't have this and we didn't have this. It's horrible. He just said, the situation sucked and we still won. So yeah, they're totally overreacting. And they aren't. They're not fan friendly. They're not player friendly. Yeah, I think that's all that can be said. Did you have anything on that, Graham?
I'm wondering if this is a case of Streisand syndrome. I don't know if you've heard about this, but I think it was a bunch of years ago now. Somebody took some pictures of Barbara Streisand's house and put them in the National Enquirer or whatever, and nobody really paid a lot of attention to it. And then Streisand sued the paper and made a huge big deal about it because it was an invasion of her privacy, which it was. But the fact that she sued them and made a big deal about it made millions more people actually see the pictures than did before. So I'm wondering if Flanagan had tweeted this thing out and people would have said, yeah, he didn't have showers, that kind of sucks, and sort of moved on. And now that the MLL has fined him about it and he has said, hey, I'm being fined for this, now it's a big deal. And now they've actually drawn more attention to this issue than would have been drawn to it if they had just not done anything at all. So they made a bad situation by not having these facilities available. Somebody mentioned it, and now they've made a bigger deal about it than it would have been anyway. So that may not have been a smart move from their point of view.
I don't know. I don't like. I didn't see like sometimes like lacrosse players getting in fake fight and like look at all the guys with rich boy names fake fighting, or look at this big hit or a fight, actual real fight indoor game. Like that stuff makes Deadspin. That stuff makes Bartels Sports. This thing didn't make any of those things. It was just nothing. Like it's just all negative. Like there's like no bad publicity. Well, maybe there is. I don't know.
All right, I guess that will do it for that section of the show. We can move on to our predictions, which is going to be fairly short because we aren't changing anything. We decided to make our predictions based on the outcome of the series. And nobody is changing anything. So just a recap, obviously Tyler picked Rochester, which is why he's unhappy. Melissa and I picked Saskatchewan. And I was honestly not super confident in my pick. I don't know if I even mentioned this during the show last week, but I picked Saskatchewan and I thought they could do it. But then I did sort of think, well, if anybody from the East can take out the Rush, it's the Nighthawks because they've done it twice this year. But I still thought, no, I can't bet against the Rush. And after seeing game one, no, I can't bet against the Rush. And if Sid Smith is out for the remainder of the series, that's a serious blow to Rochester as well. So I'm pretty happy with my pick. Yeah, so I guess all of us are still 0-0 on the finals. I'm 4-0 and Melissa's 4-0 in the playoffs. Tyler is 2-2, so I guess that means Tyler won't be able to catch up, even if Rochester
mathematically eliminated.
So I guess that'll do it, unless there's other topics that you guys wanted to mention in our abbreviated show tonight.
None for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to next week. So that's about it.
Yep. Oh, and I guess one thing we didn't mention, and I don't know if there's much we can say about it other than it's happening. So at halftime in game 2, they will have the coin flip for which of the two expansion teams gets first pick in the expansion draft and which team gets first pick in the entry draft. So whoever wins the coin flip chooses which of those two drafts they want first pick in. And I think on Teddy Jenner's Off the Crossbar show, both GMs have said that they will likely take first pick in the entry draft if given the choice. But first pick in the expansion draft is not terrible. So either way, they're doing okay. And whoever loses the first pick will get the second pick. So it's not like they're going to be down at pick number 7 or 8 or anything like that. So that coin flip will be happening at halftime of the game on Saturday. Yeah, that'll be a 10-second bit in intermission, I suppose. And that's about it. I guess we're done for this week, and we will return for what might be our last episode of the season next week, depending on who wins that game. Yeah, so we will see you next week. This has been another episode of Addicted to Lacrosse. For former pro lacrosse player Tyler and Melissa, I'm Graham. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.